I'm in the Ozarks today, and tomorrow is the opening day of the Arkansas bear season. It's like a holiday to me. We're going to be competing against the White Oak Acorns to kill these bears. But the day before season, today, we're going to be making molasses with my friend Willard Valines.
Hey everybody, my name's Clay Newcomb, and what you just watched was the intro to our newest film called Ozark Bear Camp with Clay Newcomb. It's the latest in Meateater's 12 and 26 series, brought to you by Moultrie and Onyx. And that little intro kind of warms my heart. I love the landscape shots. Willard Valines is kind of a legend around here, and it was a good film. So on what we're doing right here is our companion series podcast, where we're going to go behind the scenes, answer viewer questions, and talk to you about a bunch of stuff that we weren't able to talk about in the episode. And in this film, we head to my Arkansas bear camp with my family, friends, and a bunch of other people. And, well, I guess everybody's family and friends. There were no
we didn't have any outlaws or in-laws.
There's a few people that came that just I completely, are not my friends. That's not true. But we're going to talk about that on this podcast. I'm joined today by my producer, hero, mustache icon, fly fishing sage, and best friend a guy could ever ask for, Josh Landbridge, Spillmaker.
It's very kind of you to write that.
Wow, that
was touching.
So
appreciate that.
Great to have you here.
Speaking
Josh.
of warming hearts,
hey, you were with me on this film.
I was.
Yeah, you showed up a couple of times.
Yep.
In the film.
Yep.
So, well,
we're excited, man. This film has tons of bear hunting in it. It's kind of a iconic
That's right.
region.
It's got a lot of bear hunting in
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Not a lot of bear skinning or
yeah. But the this region where we're hunting is kind of iconic for bear grease, especially. This would be kind of your home. The Ozarks and the Ouachitas are kind of where you've cut your teeth hunting. And so, without further ado, we want to just dive right in. Like I said, there's lots of bear hunting in this film, but the film starts with a thing that happens to coincide with bear season, and that's the harvest of the sorghum.
This was really cool for me because the previous year was the first time that I would have made sorghum with Willard Valines, and the whole.
Before you get into it, let's actually watch a clip. We're going to watch about a 1 minute clip about the sorghum making. So.
Well, my dad made molasses when I was a kid, so that's been about 70 some years ago.
And then the Valines, when they came into this valley, brought with them sorghum seed. And some of that same seed is the seed that you grow today.
Right. Yeah, it's been handed down from generation to generation.
That Mr. Doyle is putting in there and squeezing all that liquid out.
Right. Then you got to boil it down until it goes into molasses.
The history is pretty remarkable, and in modern times, the timing of the sorghum harvest has coincided with bear season.
When you're boiling something down like this, really you're just removing the water and just concentrating the sugar. Right. I mean, that's really all it is.
Right.
So.
What are you gonna do with this?
With the molasses making finishing up, it's time to get down to brass tacks. We're hunting bears in less than 24 hours, and we're gonna take today's skimmings to sweeten up my bait side.
So there you go. Just a little clip. Just a little clip from the sorghum making with Willard.
It was pretty cool. The year before was the first year that I'd ever made sorghum with Willard Valines, and it was right before bear season. And so I wanted to I'll tell you exactly what happened. Is the year before I was there with them, just a scene just like what you saw. And I made a little video on my phone.
Yep. I remember that.
And I put that video on my Instagram and really didn't think that much about it. It was just a cool video showing the mule grasshopper, turning the mill. It showed the whole process in less than a minute. And that video got 30 million views on Instagram.
30 million.
30.5 million views on Instagram. And it just kind of cued me in that this is something that the world needs to see in more detail. Because
Right.
this is a 30-second, maybe minute-long clip. And so that's when I talked to Willard and said, hey, we're going to bear hunt next year over here. And we're going to have a crew here. Why don't we film the full sequence of you making molasses? And I mean, it was no sweat off his back. It was like, we're going to be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of coordination with when to harvest the sorghum.
Is that like the optimal time?
So yes, they always harvest it in September and early October.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have done it too much earlier, but here anyway, mid to late September to early October.
You know, it seems like in the harvest and production of the sorghum with the vines, like not a lot has changed. Is there anything that has changed since they started doing that a couple generations back?
I mean, the way
Obviously they weren't lifting it with a tractor.
So if you go to the store and buy a jar of sorghum molasses, most likely that was made in a modern mill. You know, they weren't using a mule to turn it. It was an electric mill somehow that, you know,
right,
presses down the canes and makes the juice. The way that they're doing it is identical to the way it would have been done 100 years ago. Because that mill that he has, the press, has been in his family for many years. They actually have one of the other brothers. So what's cool about the Valines, Willard Valines is one of 10 children.
And how old is Willard?
Willard's 78.
Okay.
And don't get me talking about where he's at, but I want to say he's somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
So he has some brothers that were older.
Right.
And one of the brothers has the original mill that his father had used, the sorghum press. Am I saying the right word for that?
I think mill seems right.
So, but that
Well,
that's
it might be a press.
classic.
It might be a press. Mill seems like it would be grinding.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the way they're doing it is just the same. And it's really pretty simple. You know, the first time I was there, I was like, man, this is a complicated process with a lot of stages. You just press the canes, get the juice out, and then you just heat it and remove the water. Like there's no recipe.
Right.
There's not like, well, at this moment you have to do this. However, that makes it sound simple. When that fire's burning, Willard and those guys are watching it like a hawk because you can ruin it.
It seems like the critical things would be like timing of when it's done, you know, keeping it moving and making sure that fire doesn't get too hot or too low.
Exactly. And they can tell you the taste difference in where sorghum is grown, even in their county. Like Willard will be like, now this cane came from here and it tastes a little bit sweeter than the cane that came from up on the mountain.
So is this something that happens regionally? Like, are there other families in that area that are...
Yeah, I'd say there's quite a few that, not quite a few, there are others that make sorghum just this same way. Not a lot.
I wonder if they have like a sorghum off, like whoever makes the best sorghum.
Oh, it would be a highly, highly contested.
I wouldn't want to judge it. I wouldn't want to judge it.
Yes. But if you haven't had sorghum, it's an interesting product. It's sweet. You could use it like syrup.
Yeah.
But it's kind of got a very unique taste that if you didn't grow up with it, you might be like, you know, it might kind of catch you off guard.
Right.
I grew up eating sorghum molasses. My grandfather, he treated it like it was like we got to go out and have ice cream. I mean, it was like, hey, you want some sorghum? You know, I mean, like it was really something special. And what he would do is he would take a butter knife and pour it out of the jar, and he could very strategically You know, it drips. It's like thicker than syrup. Like,
right. It's more like honey.
Yeah, it's like a thinner honey. And so when it's poured out, if you just tip the jar back up, it gets all over the side of the jar. And so at just the right time when you're tipping it back up, you zoom the knife across and keep the jar clean, and you'd have a little dollop about as big as a silver dollar, about less than a 1/4 inch high. Then he would take a piece of butter, a square of butter, and put it in there and mash it up with the sorghum and then put that on biscuits. That's what he did. And it was
making me hungry.
Man, back in the day before the commercialization of sugar and candy and how much access that the everyday American has to sugar, which is bizarre, and you should be very concerned with how much sugar you eat. I mean, wildly bizarre that of the people watching this video, I mean, what are the statistics of how much sugar the average American eats? I mean, it's like 50 pounds of sugar or something a year.
At least. And if you drink sodas.
That's insane. You should be very, very, which camera do I look at? You should be very concerned about this. But back in the day, to have sorghum, which was sweet, was like a treat.
Right.
It is interesting, this overlap.
You wouldn't have had sugar in your everyday consumption.
That's right. And it's kind of interesting because when I would do this same thing with my kids, hey, you want some sorghum? I mean, I'm ashamed to say that they were kind of unimpressed, you know.
Yeah.
But
kids these days.
Now my kids don't eat that much sugar. Bear Nukem? No, Bear Nukem is like almost sugar free.
Yeah.
And he's also like a lean mean.
Yeah, he's also like 2% body fat.
Yeah. So, no, that kind of stuff is really special to me to be able to document it. And what is most special, and this is what you get behind the scenes, is I wanted to do that for Willard and his family.
Right.
Because his family's been doing this. And I mean, all they would have would just be some cell phone videos in modern times and then some just, a handful of photographs from years ago. And so it was pretty cool to have the Meateater crew there to document it so well. And, it's about a 10-minute clip, so it's not like it was exhaustive.
So, a couple of questions. First, that same seed's been passed down through the generations.
Yeah.
Why does that matter, Clay?
Good sorghum.
Good sorghum.
No, I think it's just a connection to the past. Like the human life is deceptive. It feels like people from the 1800s, your third and fourth great grandfathers, were a long ways away, but they really weren't.
Right.
And, by Willard holding that seed and planting it in the ground and knowing that his ancestors, you could track it back and grew that seed. I think it just connects you to the past and to the heritage of the region, and it's just unique.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that I could touch that. I mean, other than my great grandfather's shotgun, which I've got over there, like very little. And when you think about history, which I talk a lot about history,
right?
And you might think that I was hyper nostalgic in the way that I think about even my life, and I'm not sure that I am. Because the past is interesting. There's a lot of the past that we should forget and even reject and move past in our own personal lives and even in our family's history. But the knowledge of some of this stuff is powerful. That's more a statement of general understanding of why the history. Because I think there's probably can be a unhealthy attachment to the past.
Yeah.
And this is not that. This is a celebration of heritage and a connection to a family legacy. And over in this part of the world, in Newton County and in the kind of the central Ozarks, the name Villines, there are hundreds of Villines because the guys that brought that sorghum seed, I want to say Willard told me that Abraham Villines had 18 children.
Wow.
And they're all still over there. And they're a wonderful family. There are I know a lot of Villines over there.
One last question, and it's kind of a philosophical question, would be.
Oh, another one?
what does Willard represent about the Ozarks that you wanted the viewers to appreciate? By starting, I mean, you started this film off with that. What is it about him that you want people to see?
He's just there are people that are. He just has such a connection to the Ozarks. He's just a real deal Ozarkian. Like he's not trying to be anything. He just is what he is.
He didn't put those overalls and hat on because he was going to be on film.
He may have just a little, but he wears those all the time. I mean, you know, there's actually a part of history in all these places that we reflect back to our past and are influenced by. Me wearing these overalls right here. I mean, it's like, it's a hat tip to the past, and I think people still do that today.
Sure.
But Willard's the real deal. He's a mule man. He's a hunter. He's just a well-respected guy over there.
Love it. Yeah, great guy. Okay, let's we got another clip here. Let's go ahead and watch it.
Bears right now are going into what they call hyperphagia, which is a physiological state of incredible increase in metabolism. So a bear
About fell off
bear
right
eats
there.
5,000 to 8,000 calories a day. In the fall, they can eat 20,000 calories a day. And so when you're baiting, you're capitalizing on a natural process inside of a bear. We're using Pop-Tarts, corn, sorghum molasses skimmings.
We got in a little later than we wanted, so it was a quick drop Just of the running out of molasses over the bait. We filled up the bait barrels. The last thing we want to do is spook bears the night before the hunt. Everybody's here for the season opener, and we're having a big time. Much of my hunting is primarily solo, but our bear camp is always full of people, and that's something that I love.
I always got to give like the State of the Union, the State of the Bear Union. I have pretty good news. Like, I would say that the bear situation is average to slightly below average.
So, tell us a little bit about, you typically have a bear camp every year. Tell us what made this bear camp different than bear camps in the past.
Well, it was fun to have Lake Pickle, Jordan Blissett there. They were both new bear hunters, had never bear hunted before, so it was cool to get to introduce them to it. We were actually in a new spot that I hadn't hunted before. We were in a new spot, and
Undisclosed new spot.
And my buddy Justin House was there. James Lawrence came up, who's in
Bear Grease icon. Yep.
Yes. And there was another interesting guest at our bear camp this year. Ted Koppel was there.
As in the real Ted
Koppel that interviewed Richard Nixon.
Right.
Ted Koppel.
Yep.
You actually see Ted Koppel in the last clip of the film sitting by our fire. He's wearing all black, and he's kind of sitting in the back, and we're playing music, and the lights are on, and you actually can see Ted Koppel.
So he had come to do
what you wouldn't have known from watching the film is that CBS Good Morning CBS Sunday Morning came to our bear camp, and were there for basically 2 of the 5 days. There were people there. I guess there were people there for parts of 3 of 5 days. They came in on the evening. Ted was there all day one of the days, but the guys were still there the next day for portion of the day, if I recall.
Yeah.
And they did a spot on CBS Sunday Morning, and so Ted interviewed many of us. We rendered bear fat. Aside from what you saw, we rendered bear fat for CBS Sunday Morning, and he just hung out with us.
I have to say that compared to some of the bear camps of the past, which have been awesome, this one was a little bougier too. We had a pretty nice place.
We stayed in a really nice cabin. Yeah. We did. That was unusual.
You get spoiled there.
We kind of had to do that because we had so many people there, and because we had Ted Koppel and his crew coming. And so we on the Bear Grease podcast spoke about when Ted Koppel came. He's 85. 85 years old.
A very spry
if you're
85.
Younger and you don't anybody, I would say 35 and older would know who Ted Koppel was one of the most famous, well-known faces in America for probably 25 years as a broadcast anchor for CBS.
Yeah.
So, back in the day, kids, there was just television. You had television and books and radio.
Yep.
That's all you had. No cell phones. People watched television at night.
Ted Koppel was a household name.
And there would have been like 3 or 4 major networks, and the anchors for the nightly news on those stations were as famous as the president, almost.
Right.
And so Ted Koppel was one of those guys.
He was on Nightline for years.
Yes, for many years, and he was a delightful man.
He was. It honestly surprised me how endearing he was. I mean, just like personable, humble. Yeah.
Sat with us and just talked. He singled out almost everyone in our camp and had fairly in-depth conversations.
Personal conversations.
When I realized what he was doing was Justin House, who it can just kind of be a fly on the wall at times, was there. And there was a little bit of a lull. We were in a big group. This is after he'd been there for hours, and he looked at Justin and he said, "Justin, tell me what you do."
Yeah.
And it was clear that he was trying to connect with everybody there. And one time I came around the corner and he and Brent were sitting over in a chair just chatting away. No telling what Brent was telling him.
When you guys were out hunting one afternoon, he sat down with your mom and dad and Misty and I think just the 4 of us, and just for an hour and a half, and just let us ask him questions about his career and his family, and just really neat.
Yeah.
What is it about bear camp that means so much to you?
So most of my hunting, I said it in there, most of my hunting is solo. Like most of my hunting, I wake up here at my house and, go deer hunting or go bear hunting. And maybe somebody comes with me.
Right.
But, I'm driving there and hunting for a day or two and coming back. Other times I'm leaving on the bigger hunts. To me, my hunting, and probably most people's hunting, can be segregated into 2 things: your local hunting, but then if you're so fortunate to get to travel to hunt, and many people do make one big hunting trip somewhere.
Right.
You travel. So when I travel, I'm usually with people, but it's not home and it's not with family. Bear camp is very communal, very focused on the camp, very we're not hunting that hard in terms of hunting. The work that goes into it is more than I do for anything else that I do. And that's hard to describe for some people. I mean, it just, the work that goes into baiting bears is the most work that I do.
Yeah.
Like when I go to Alaska next month, I'm just going to show up, and I've never been there. All of my energy will be dedicated during the time I'm there, and then I leave. This takes a whole bunch of effort to get there.
I mean, for a month ahead of time.
Yes, and so when we're there, though, we're typically just hunting the evenings, maybe a little bit in the morning, and so we're spending a lot of time at camp, a lot of time with people, and that's fun to me.
Man, we had a great time just having food, and in the evenings people would show up, and one night there were guys there playing some fantastic music.
That's right.
It was your birthday. We celebrated that. It was, man, we had a great time. I've got a couple questions here from some Instagram. First question is from Isaac Reynolds, Isaac_Reynolds34, if you're out there. What's your recommended draw weight for bear, and what's your favorite bear bait to use?
You can use archery equipment on a black bear that you would use on a whitetail deer.
Okay.
They're really. I wouldn't do anything different between my whitetail setup and my bear setup.
Broadheads as well.
Now that I would do different. I typically I go back and forth between expandables with whitetails.
Okay.
I'd say 75% of the time I'm using some expandable head for whitetails. They're
Okay.
thinner skinned, thinner boned. You're more likely, I feel like, with a whitetail to get a compromised hit because of the way they can react to a shot and drop and move. And so I want a big cut in diameter. When I'm bear hunting, I prioritize an entry and exit hole. So I want the arrow that is going to penetrate the most.
You use fixed blade. Do you use
Fixed blade for
cut
that.
on impact?
I would not. You wouldn't have to use a cut on impact necessarily.
Okay.
But I like to use a fixed blade broadhead.
Okay.
For black bear. Now, yeah, we could go into all the stuff about shot placement and
Sure. I'm sure that will come up later.
today later.
Well, we'll talk about shot placement on, on a bear.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah. So favorite bear bait?
Favorite bear bait is going to be carbohydrate for here. Now, what is interesting about black bears is that they have such a wide geographic distribution, which black bears have currently of the large mammals on this continent, have the largest geographic distribution of them all.
Okay.
Historically, wolves would have had a wider geographic distribution than the black bear.
Okay.
Okay, think about this, Josh. This is going back to bear bait and why bears prefer different foods in different places. But the wolf essentially would have historically ranged from north of the Arctic Circle all the way down into Old Mexico, from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Wow.
I mean, like, without a gap in there. There would have been different subspecies of wolves, based
Sure.
upon the biology and all this, but the wolf would have done that. The black bear would do the exact same thing, except black bears historically were not in the great prairie regions of America. A black bear has to have trees to survive. And so there would have been pockets in the Great Plains where black bears wouldn't have been. They would have been in the riparian zones, but wolves would have been in those areas. And then the treeless areas of the southwestern desert in the Great Plains were the only places that there were not black bears. So imagine, black bears range north of the Arctic Circle as well.
Wow.
Probably not as high as wolves, though.
Sure.
And the furthest southerly documented black bears have been around Mexico City, which is deep into Mexico. And so, but are there wolves today in Arkansas and in Oklahoma and in Kansas? No, they're not. So, historic range, the wolf had the biggest. Today, the black bear does, because the black bear now exists in basically 65% of its historic range, and in many regions, 100% of its historic range, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like in Canada and Alaska, the black bear is in the 100% of its historic range.
Okay. So how does that tie to bear bait?
Okay, thank you. Bears prefer different things in different places.
Okay.
So, for instance, in the spring in Canada, these outfitters are using oats with oil on it. I'm convinced that if you put oats with oil on bear bait in this part of the world, you would have not great results. And we can only hunt in the fall here.
Right.
But my favorite bear bait, I would say, would be pastries, donuts, Pop-Tarts, and bread and grease. That seems to be when we're baiting them. And I want to emphasize for anybody has not been around bear baiting, there's a ton of research about baiting black bears, and we cover it in my book that's coming out in February.
Right.
American Bear. I mean,
Excited about it.
we cover it all, but I can just summarize for you to say that all the research indicates that baiting bears does not habituate them to anthropomorphic foods, anthropogenic foods. Like, they're not going to come raid your house because they're being baited a half a mile away. Basically, it's it's not detrimental to for
And they
short
still have a
periods of
preference
time.
for
Oh, they're
natural,
always
organic.
going to have a preference for natural foods.
yeah.
They just do. They would rather eat a white oak acorn. So things that make a bear fat. But up in Canada, they would use like oil and oats.
Okay. One of the questions I had when I watched it is you mentioned that during hyperphagia, when they're trying to put on weight, that a bear will eat 20,000 calories in a day. In nature, what are they eating that they're able to get 20,000 calories in a day?
In the fall, hard mast has incredible caloric content.
Okay.
And so, like a white oak acorn has 5 to 7 calories per acorn.
Right.
And imagine, I tell a story in the book of once when I actually watched, and the only reason I knew the timestamp was because I videoed it, but I watched a bear eat white oak acorns for 18 minutes straight without lifting its head.
Wow.
And just estimating that bear was chomping one white oak acorn every 5 seconds, which probably would be about as fast as it would.
Right.
It would have consumed like 1,800 calories
Okay.
in like
In 18 minutes.
it may not have been that precise. 18 and 18 makes me think my numbers are wrong, but it consumed an enormous, like over 1,000 calories in that 18 minutes. And it's like,
Wow.
how many times could it do that in a day?
Right.
20,000. It
Right.
fairly easily could.
Right.
So yeah, they're just cramming on the calories.
Okay.
And but what's so cool about these bears is that they have to, because our bears here are typically up and on their feet for 9 to 10 months a year. But in the highest portion of their range, way up in the north, boy, I don't want to spill too much about the book. The coolest fact in the book, the coolest fact in the whole book is the longest documented denning that we've ever seen a bear stay in a den, like a collared bear.
Right.
They knew when it went in. They knew when it came out. And let me just say, it was an unbelievable amount of time.
And when they're there, they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're not defecating.
That's
they're
right.
not urinating.
That's right.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, and yes, it is. It's a absolutely fascinating process. But that connects back to them having to eat 20,000 calories a day, or being able to in the
Right.
fall. Is that they're trying to make a year's living in 6 to 9 months. You know,
Wow.
so they've got to pack it all in, and and a bear is just built to consume calories. I mean,
Right.
it just has big intestines, big stomach, the ability, a mouth that can consume food
Right.
and process it quickly. I mean, like they're just an eating machine, is what they are.
Wow.
And the coolest thing about bears is they're omnivores, and whatever's happening ecologically on planet Earth, it is favoring omnivores. It is favoring generalists. Specialists are often the things that are struggling. And that's why that we see the black bear thriving.
Right.
Every researched population of bears is stable or increasing right now.
Wow. That's awesome. One more viewer question, the simple one. Do you have a favorite fresh kill camp meal? And that's from Mac Fink Biner 0711.
I think I don't have a fancy answer, but just to cook a backstrap over a fire.
Some seasoning on it.
Yeah. Or just
Delicious.
to just fry it, pan fry it, battered and pan fried. This is the way to go.
All right. Well, we've got another clip here.
Man, I'm excited for you.
I'm just eager, man. I'm ready to get up there. I'm ready to see a bear from a stand. That's just going to be something new for me.
Dr. Pickle. We're starting our hunt in the early afternoon. Bears are crepuscular, so they move at dawn and dusk. But these baited bears move a lot at night. So we opt to go and start hunting in mid-afternoon when the bears aren't there, and just set up and wait for the last hour of daylight. Maybe Lake's anticipation of seeing bears had something to do with it, but he actually doesn't have to sit long until he actually sees a bear.
Like right here. I don't see it. Another bear coming from the right.
Lake has some truly big bears that are coming into this bait. We know they're coming in, and we also know that these aren't them. So today they get a pass. But in this kind of hunt, your options can change by the day and even by the hour.
So you've kind of addressed a lot of the baiting issues. I feel like the film does a good job showing just how difficult it is to bait. I mean, the work that goes into it. But just because you bait doesn't mean it's a sure thing. So there's dissenters. Is there anything that you haven't covered that you feel like you want to communicate about baiting? There's always the comments, this is cheating, this isn't fair.
Yeah. I would say that somebody that would say that, I would say to them, let's look at the bigger picture of bear management. Wherever there is a season that allows it to be legal to hunt bears over bait or use hounds, the other methods of hunting, which basically would be spot and stalk, would be inadequate to harvest the number of bears that needed to be taken out of that system. Let me give you an example. Arkansas currently has about 6,000 bears in the state, which is really not that many.
Right.
So many other places. Like, don't come here to hunt. It's not that great.
Right.
Georgia, West Virginia, North Carolina,
Tennessee.
All these places have more bears than us.
Right.
But in 20 years, Arkansas Arkansas hunters have legally harvested over 10,000 bears. Okay. I talked to a biologist we did the math together, and if there was no hunting since the year 2000, there would be between 20 and 30,000 bears in the state. Like with the reproduction, like counting how many were taken out.
Right.
And basically the carrying capacity of the state and the habitat that we have is probably we're reaching it. They're actually trying to keep the population just stable.
Right.
And there's many factors that go into that. There's actual habitat constraints. And 6,000, I kind of get bummed when I hear that number, because that at one time they believed this state had 50,000 bears in it. And to say we have 6,000 and us celebrate that today is kind of like, wow, that doesn't sound that great. But the truth is that this place is full of houses and roads and shopping malls and Bermuda grass fields that are no longer bear habitat that at one time were. Every square inch of basically, I'm just using Arkansas as an example, but you could extrapolate this out every direction. Every square inch of the state used to be bear habitat and would have been used by bears in some way. Okay. And so today, actual habitat is a limitation. But then number two, and even more important and most important, the reason that we couldn't have 30,000 bears in the state is the cultural tolerance, which is how many bears will a culture tolerate? How often, how comfortable are you going to be with bears sleeping under your house? And in California and in New Jersey and a lot of these places, the cultural tolerance and the amount of bears there is in this big conflict. That's a lot about what my book is about.
Right.
And I do think I would have a high tolerance for more bears. But also last year in this state, 2 people were killed by bears.
Right.
Wild. This year there's been more black bear human fatalities. It's on the rise. It absolutely is on the rise. So to answer your question about baiting, is that when we bait a bear, we are playing a very significant role inside of bear management to keep the bear population stable, and you couldn't do it any other way. You send out spot and stalk hunters, they will not be able to harvest the same bears. And so you become a pawn inside of a system, and when you bait a bear, it's less about Clay one-on-one and outsmarting a bear. It's more about I want to pick the specific bear I want to take,
Right.
and I'm going to eat this bear, render his fat, tan his hide. I'm going to use this animal to the highest degree, and I'm going to be selective about the animal that I take based upon the opportunity that I have, which varies from year to year. My judgment of what bear that I would take changes by the day. With a whitetail deer, I might have in my mind what I'm going to take and what I'm not.
Right.
Like maybe I'm going to take a doe, maybe I'm going to take a 115-inch plus buck. With a bear, depending upon how much meat I need, if I need some grease, I might take the oldest, best male that I've really got a shot at taking, which might be a 3-year-old male. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Other years, on really good years, which it varies dramatically. Some years, bears are very responsive to bait, and you can be highly selective. And I've taken some multiple 500-plus pound, just monster, beautiful stomper bears.
that you might not have had an opportunity
Oh.
to harvest had it
Last
not been
year,
for bait.
there was no chance we were going to kill any of those bears, though we had them on camera in the middle of the night sporadically. And so, like, Lake's sitting there thinking he's going to shoot a 500-pound bear. I mean, by the time we actually got him in the stand, it was pretty much like, hey, that's not going to happen.
Right.
That bear is long gone. He's on some white oak ridge devouring 18. He's just eating
Thousands of calories a acre.
nonstop.
Yep.
He doesn't want to be here. He's not here. And so that really doesn't answer the question, but baiting bears is critical for bear management.
You mentioned the 50,000 bears. At one time, there was 50,000 bears in Arkansas. That would have been at a time when populations in Arkansas were very small, and the one of the main things that took that population way down was market hunting. Correct? Would that be correct?
More so landscape level logging than even market hunting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Logging and the loss of habitat had vastly more impact on black bear than market hunting.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
You'll learn all this in American Bear, coming out in February of 2027.
I'll be first in line. All right. Here's another clip.
A bear is such a reclusive animal. They're an animal of the shadows.
More biology here, folks.
It's black. And most of the
Lake
time,
made fun of me for
animals,
that. Saying
the
black bear
color
is
of the
black.
fur is for camouflage, and it shows you where they want to live. The real reason that a bear is black is that the early ancestors of black bears, like deep history, developed in the tropics. And there's a thing called Glogger's rule, which Glogger's rule means if an animal, the closer they are to the equator, oftentimes furred mammals are darker because it reduces the potential for them to get like fungal infections. So modern geneticists have found that the ancestral color of the black bear, the Ursus americanus, American black bear, is black. So they can tell by DNA that a long time ago bears were black. And color phase bears, by genetics they can tell, developed in the southwest US about 9,000 years ago.
So,
I never thought that was going to make the cut.
and I cut a bunch out.
Yeah, it went on and on and on.
When did you first become interested in bear? You know, you're writing this book. When did you first become interested in bear biology beyond just hunting bears?
Well, when I killed my first bear in 2001, that is what catalyzed me to really start studying about bears. And I was in college at the time and went back to the U of A and University of Arkansas and went up into the library and started looking for bear books and found at the time what was all the research academic research that had ever been done on our populations of bears. And it wasn't that many things. I mean, it was like, probably less than 5 like thesis projects that people had done and research that people had done. And I read it all. I read every word of it and just was fascinated by it and didn't really have a conclusion of why I was interested in it. It wasn't like I was thinking, oh, I'm going to talk about this one day.
Right.
I was just interested in it. So taking that first bear was, well, I tell the story. I've told it many times. Maybe I haven't told it on the podcast before, but it's definitely in the book.
If you guys haven't picked up on it, Clay wrote a book that's coming out in February.
Start saving your pennies. When I kill this bear, I walk up to it. My dad's with me, and
This was what year?
2001. October 1st, 2001. At the crack of dawn, I shot this bear on the first day it was ever legal to hunt over bait. So I claim, and no one has disputed me in 20 years, so I'm no longer taking disputes because it's so long ago. If you think you shot one before me, you probably just don't remember. I say that I killed the first legal bear in the state of Arkansas.
Over bait.
Over bait. Now, I know people that killed him illegally before that.
Have you turned them in?
No, many of them are no longer with us. But so it's a joke, but
Right.
I actually think it might be true.
Pretty close to true, if not.
It was barely shooting light.
Yeah.
When I watched a bear glide, it was so dim, Josh, that I couldn't really see the bear's legs. I couldn't quite make out his legs. It just looked like a floating black blob coming up from down the mountain. And he came right in, and I was just like, there he is.
Do you have game pictures of him?
No, we didn't have game cameras. The game cameras didn't really come out until later.
Okay.
2001, no.
Okay.
We just knew there were bears there because they're eating our bait. Oh, it was one of the most exciting things in my life was that year when it became legal to bait bears. We started baiting bears, and they started showing up, and we would go out there, and we would occasionally see a bear, and it was just so exciting. And then I shoot this bear, and when I walk up to it, I was 21 years old, and I had an incredibly hollow feeling that I knew nothing about this animal. And it was just this majestic, awesome animal. And, I deer hunted and turkey hunted and small game hunted up until this point. And, I knew what deer ate, where they lived, when they bred. I knew how to call a turkey. I knew about these animals. And so when I took one, there was a sense of connection to this thing. When I killed this bear, I realized I didn't know a thing about it.
Right.
And this was an incredible animal. And honestly, many people of the generation before mine and even my generation at the time viewed a bear as just kind of like a big raccoon, just kind of like, yeah, shoot all of them,
Right.
And man, when I walked up to it, that is not the sense that I had at all. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
What a beast. I cannot believe.
It was a good bear, too.
I mean, it was a nice bear. And that just set me on a track to kind of.
I remember when you got the rug back, and I was like, "Wow!" Like it was one of the coolest things that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Recto REKTOJM63 has a question of the many bears you've harvested, which one of them stand out in high quality flavor? Can you tell the difference from bears that you've killed in different regions?
No. I wish I could, and maybe somebody that paid more attention to their palate could. I will say that there's a lot of press about how bears in Southeast Alaska taste fishy, and man, I've eaten 2, and I have not found them to.
Really?
I have not. Bear Newcomb killed one on the shore of the Alaskan coast this year that was eating mussels when he shot it, and I can't tell the difference between that bear and one here in Arkansas.
Okay.
But I think it probably maybe was luck of the draw because it's kind of indisputable that some of these bears that are eating a lot of fish and ocean type
Sure.
food, have a kind of a fishy taste.
Right.
But in the two that I have had, I have not had that.
Okay. Well, we've got another clip here. This one's a little bit longer. When Lake has his first interaction with shooting a bear.
Based on the pictures, there are about 10 different bears that have been coming to this bait. A lot of them look the same. 2 bears showed up on the first day that Lake saw that he chose to pass.
I kind of want to shoot that back one. I think we got him, buddy. I just got word that Lake shot a bear. I don't really know anything about it.
Lake gives the bear an hour before climbing down to assess the situation.
That's my arrow.
He finds his arrow, which clearly passed through the bear, but it hardly has any blood at all on it, which is not a good sign, and there's hardly any blood on the ground. The whole gang comes down from their stands to help look for Lake's bear. When there's barely a blood trail like this, it takes the whole camp. Luckily, we've got some guys with some experience. If we're gonna find this bear, these are the guys I'd want helping me.
Across it.
All right, we got blood right here, guys.
Bear coming in clutch.
Just the hair, not much.
And there is not much blood, and it's that dark red, not great blood.
What are you seeing?
I can hardly see it when it's hitting the bear. I can see it blowing out the other side in the leaves.
It does look a little high, don't it?
Yeah.
I think I shot him too high.
Yeah.
I don't want to admit that, but I think that's what happened.
Man, it's easy to do. It's a bummer. I hate it for you, man. The truth of it is that bear is gonna live and he's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So we kind of see the arc of emotion of Lake from his first shot, feels pretty good about it, and then all of a sudden it comes to the realization that the shot placement was not optimal. Why was it important to leave that whole sequence in the film?
Well, we've always at Meateater just kind of showed things the way it happened, and so yeah, it was as you could see. I mean, it wasn't a compromised situation when Lake shot. I mean, the bear was broadside, probably 19 yards. I mean, which is a chip shot.
Mm-hmm.
And he just hit a little high, and boy, that there really is a big hollow spot high on those bears, and that
Bears are difficult because they've got so much fur. It's hard to see what's.
I always say that a short-haired, light-colored animal like a white-tailed deer, you can see the contour of its body.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where the shoulder comes up. You can see where the neck comes down and the shoulder bulges. You can see where the rib cage ends. A lot of times, you can see you can really see, and you can really aim where you want to. On a black bear, it's almost like you are shooting at an inflated black trash bag.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when you draw back and you're looking through a peep, oftentimes all you see is black, especially if it's close.
Right.
Several bears that I've shot close, I've drawn back, and all you see in your peep sight is black. And now Lake being at 19 yards would have had more aperture than that. But I mean, he just hit high. He did, and the film doesn't show the extent to which we went to look for that bear.
Right. There were comments of, well, you should look for it longer. You guys looked for that bear for hours and hours and hours.
We did. We exhausted our efforts and used all the data points that we had. And I mean, I I am fully confident that bear's still alive today. And
Yeah.
I mean, with collectively
Because it
inside,
didn't hit anything vital.
that's right. It was high, passed through the back straps. I mean, we could see that, and Lake's in an elevated stand, and it's kind of dumb to try to justify to the world that we did what we should have done, but
Right.
I mean, I grew up. My dad, Gary Believer Newcomb, was he was absolutely the biggest stickler I've ever been around in my life for giving the fullest extent towards tracking an animal that you made any contact with an arrow, and so that's been built deep inside of me for a long time. And those periphery hits on an animal, if you hit one too high or too low, like that animal is not going to die. Now, if the shot had been far back, like if he had hit that bear
Right.
far back and hit it in the guts,
Yeah.
totally different story.
Right.
Because that bear, that's a mortal wound. That bear is going to die, and it's a completely different scenario. But we
Right.
knew, based upon the blood on the arrow, we knew that there was not a chance of finding this animal. But we did we got back to camp way after midnight.
Yeah.
And I mean,
With
obviously,
multiple people.
what if our to help those people? What if our whole film was just us tracking the bear, and it was a 6-hour film? That would
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah.
No, I mean, of course we show this like condensed version,
Right.
And it's a bummer. And I hated it for Lake, and I hate Ted Koppel was there.
Yeah.
That was probably the most difficult part of it is, when the America is watching, you're hoping that as a hunter you're going to put your best foot forward,
Right.
And we did, in that just
And Lake wasn't being
Told-
careless or a bad shot. It was
Oh,
just,
no.
I mean,
It happened.
Yeah, it just happened.
It just happened. It could have happened to me just as easy as it happened to him, and so we had to go talk with Ted Koppel about this.
Yeah.
And he didn't seem that worked up about it.
Yeah. Lake just felt sick about it because y'all had to come back to film with Ted Koppel here after he's been looking for this bear,
Yeah,
and then it was the only thing on his mind while we were trying to do the interview.
Yeah.
And then he went back out looking for it even more. So
Yep.
Lake chose not to continue hunting
yep.
after he drew blood. What do you think about that decision?
Yeah, I think
What
it's
are
a
your
great
thoughts?
decision. In some places, that's the legal requirement, but not here. Not most places, it's not. There's probably just a few places in the country where if you draw blood, you legally have to notch your tag. So he chose to do that, and I thought it was a good move.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit on the last companion podcast when you were in Alaska hunting bears, but what are some of the pros and cons of hunting with a bow, and what can a hunter do to mitigate the opportunity to have a failed harvest?
Well, shooting a bear is they're a difficult animal. Really, well, I take that back. A well-placed arrow is very efficient at taking that
Right.
bear. People that are used to shooting white-tailed deer can have trouble shooting a bear.
Right.
Okay, the structure of a bear is different than a white-tailed deer, and you aim low on a whitetail. These are all the bullet points I always say. When you're shooting a whitetail deer with a bow, you aim low because that animal is going to react to the sound of the shot and duck. A bear is not a prey animal. He does not have the same flight response as a prey animal like a white-tailed deer. So
Right.
they're not going to jump the string, so you don't need to aim low. One time I took a veteran whitetail hunter out, a guy that had killed 300 whitetails with a bow, and he shot a bear right through the brisket that we didn't find. And it was because he was aiming low and tight, anticipating the bear dropping into the air.
Right.
So don't do that. And then the other thing that's slightly uncomfortable for whitetail hunters about bears is that you need to aim further back. Like you need to aim probably 4 to 6 inches back from the shoulder. And it's because, Josh, if we had a picture of a white-tailed deer and a bear, a white-tailed deer's legs are further back on its body compared to where its neck and brisket come down. Okay? Like imagine the head of a bear,
Right.
and there's just his neck, and then there's his shoulder.
Right.
His front legs are up further.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A white-tailed deer is back, and you can actually see his chest stick out like this. And so it's not that their anatomy is different. I mean, in a wild way, all mammals are about the same. Where
Right.
heart, lungs, intestines, liver, all this stuff is the same. But the positioning of the legs on a bear is further forward. So it means you have to aim further back from the leg. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
So middle of the middle is what some people have said. I go not quite middle of the middle, almost middle of the middle, but then back a little bit towards the shoulder.
Oh, back even further than
No, back
I see. Back, going back toward the head.
towards the shoulder.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, we've got another clip here.
Man, that's some beautiful bear grease or bear fat right there.
Here we go.
We're a little optimistic, even. I would say this was a
Well, let's go back here. I think it started a little late. There we go.
I would say my predictions were a little optimistic, even. I would say this was a below average, but we had somebody give us some bear fat. This is fresh bear fat,
Mighty
and we're gonna render it down. I'm gonna put about a 1/4 inch of water in there, so that when it hits the pan, it doesn't scald and burn. So we're just gonna put it right in that water.
Good looking bear fat.
It is.
It's getting there. Look at that oil lake. Boy, you want it to be that like light colored. See how that's like the color of like chicken broth?
Yeah.
That's what you want it to stay the whole time. We're almost done. I mean, you can see these like little pieces, like they're almost rendered down like as much as they're gonna render down.
Gotcha.
With our bear fat rendered, we're ready to put it in the jars. The lower and slower you cook it, the lighter the oil will be. My preference is to cook around 225 degrees for 45 minutes until it's the color of chicken broth.
All right. Well, why? That's great. I think a great way to end the film with rendering the bear grease. Why has rendering bear grease become something that you're so passionate about?
Well, let me address a little more functional question first. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
The best case scenario when you're rendering bear fat is to grind it.
So we have a question from Kevin Klein, 1851. I've got a question about rendering bear fat. Would grinding the fat prior to rendering yield more oil, and does cutting it in small cubes?
Yeah. So in the field like that, you can cut it up into cubes just like we did, and the smaller the cubes, the better, and you can render it down. And you get a pretty good yield. You probably get 80-20, like 80% oil, 20% solid cracklings.
Right.
And that's a decent yield. You will get probably close to 90% yield when you grind it. So
And
what
is
you
fine grind
Yeah.
the ideal?
Yeah. And what you would do is you would get your bear fat, the chunks of it cold, or even put it in a freezer and just like almost get it frozen, and then cube it up, and then put it in a grinder, and then render that. And there is no. It's kind of like making sorghum. You're just heating the fat. Like there's no recipe.
Right.
And you
And
could
the water that you put in there just evaporates out.
That's right. That's just to keep it from burning and scalding at first. It's just something that we do. Just put a little water down there. But you can render bear fat with any heat source. I've done it in a Fry Daddy. I've done it over fire in cast iron, like a Dutch oven. Done it in a jet boil. I've done it in these like turkey cookers with propane. I've done it on a electric stove with just a saucepan.
And you're using like medium heat.
Well, so that's the only variable inside the whole process. You could just barely turn it up, to 180 and let it cook down for longer periods of time.
Theoretically, you could do it in a crock pot.
Oh yeah, people do. That was my next on my list was a crock pot. There's people that really love cooking it in a crock pot. What you can do, and it doesn't completely ruin it, but it's not ideal, is that you can burn it. Like if it gets to like 300 degrees, it's going to be dark, and it's not unusable. It's still usable, but it does have a stronger odor. And it just kind of has a little bit of a burnt taste. But much of the bear oil that I have rendered has had a little bit of a burnt taste because it's easy for it to get too hot.
Right.
And so low and slow, the 225 for 45 minutes is just a generalization. Probably, I say that because it's just easy to cite those numbers. Probably it would be more like 210, 215 for a little under an hour would probably be ideal, but you just don't ever want it to get like really dark and really hot.
Right.
So,
what are some of your favorite modern uses for bear grease?
Well, I've got bear grease on my face right now.
Oh, really?
I've for several years have been putting bear grease on my face after we had bear grease chemically analyzed by one of the top lipid labs in the country that we report in our book what we find. But what we found made me want to put it on my face every day.
Okay.
But we cook with it. Frying with it is the best thing that I do.
I mean, you use it to oil your saddles. You use it.
Yeah, you can use it.
I mean,
to soften leather. But to me, the premium use is for pan frying, either fish or meat. You can use bear oil in substitution for anything that calls for oil. So any cake recipe, any biscuit recipe that calls for Crisco or oil, you can substitute in bear
pie
oil.
crust.
And if you cook it too long, it can have a burnt flavor. If you cook it just right, it really doesn't have a flavor. You can make bear oil chocolate chip cookies. That just it's like using shortening. Basically, before these processed oils and shortening, animal fat oils were used for all this stuff. And so historically, oh man, I could go on and on, but the first time the word bear grease shows up in the literature, in the record of America, was in 1541, July the 5th.
Wow.
Hernando de Soto, his scribe, a guy named Elva, wrote when they encountered Native Americans in East Tennessee. He writes, they have what they call bear grease stored in gourds, which is like olive oil and butter. And that's the way he described it, like olive oil and butter. And what we found when we did the chemical analysis of black bear fat was that it actually is very similar to olive oil in chemical composition.
That's really... Would they not have been doing this like in Europe and Bavaria and that kind of thing?
Black bears are only in North America.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that. What bears do they have in Europe?
Ursus americanus, baby.
I guess they're Ursus americanus.
Now, they would have been rendering Asiatic black bear fat in Asia and in the places, but Ursus americanus is the only... I mean, it's only here. It's endemic to North America and only on the North American continent.
Okay.
Now, an Asiatic black bear looks similar to a black bear, but they're
not.
Completely different species.
Well, I'm going to have to read the book.
Black bears are actually genetically more kin to grizzly bears and polar bears than Asiatic black bears.
Fascinating.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. Yeah.
It's absolutely wild. But the black bear was the premium bear on planet Earth for fat. because of their diet. So in Europe, they would have had some bear fat, but it would have been brown bear fat.
Okay.
And so when these Europeans came over here, and in the Roanoke colonies, some of the first correspondence that they had with England, I mean, like the first guys that came over and set up a colony, and they were doing it to make money to like export stuff back to Britain. Bear grease was in their list of stuff that, hey, there's some pretty wild bear grease over here, different than anything that we have that became
Send
a
us
commodity.
the good stuff.
In the mid 1700s, 14% of the exports coming out of New Orleans was American black bear grease going to Europe. 14% of all the exports out of New Orleans was black bear fat, much of it stored in skin hides and what they called a deer of oil. Wait till you read the book. When they killed a deer, there's this historical accounts of when these guys would kill a deer and they would describe what would happen, what Native Americans would do. If you killed a bear, you immediately went and tried to kill a deer.
Oh.
And you would skin it and tube skin it and basically tie off the legs and the neck. The neck would be the spout of this bag, this deer skin bag.
Right.
And you would completely fill it with oil and then seal it off. And that would be what you
transport it.
called a deer of oil.
A deer of oil.
Some of the first travel writers that ever came to the Ozarks described what he thought was bizarre, but a deer of oil hanging on someone's house that he walked in. He was like, they had he described that. So
right.
wild history of bear grease in this country. Bizarre and wild history. And we documented it in a really thorough fashion.
So, no bears killed.
No bears were killed.
The quota didn't
Very
get
difficult.
filled. The baits go cold, but still, this film was like satisfying. In your opinion, can you have a successful hunt without harvesting an animal?
No, it's all. No. Did you write these questions? Wait, did my hero, producer, mustache icon,
I don't
fly
know.
fishing
I don't know who
sage,
wrote that.
and best friend a guy could ever have, Josh Filmmaker, write that?
I don't know who wrote
ridiculous
that
question.
I don't know who wrote that.
Yeah, it's like
Well,
the.
I mean, I
that's like
guess
the,
that kind
that's
of the
like
question-
the clickbait social media question of the ages. You know,
What does a successful hunt look like to you then?
when you kill something. No, I'm kidding. You're just not always going to kill an animal. Were we disappointed massively? Was I surprised? Yes. Was I pretty confident we were going to get a bear? Yes, I was. And we did have an opportunity.
Right.
And I passed a bear that was legal to have killed.
Yeah.
I only saw one bear in 5 days. That first afternoon had about 100-pound boar come in. And I mean, technically that would have been a legal animal to take.
Brent was hunting on some property that he had secured, and his arrow deflected on a little tiny branch as he shot it.
Yeah, Brent actually had a pretty nice boar come in the first day that he missed.
Yeah.
And we did, just limitations of making a film. We didn't have a cameraman with Brent, which we should have learned that. Always have a cameraman with Brent.
Right. If someone who's never hunted watches this film, what do you want to be their takeaway?
Just to see the history, the culture, the bigger picture of hunting. It's not just about harvesting an animal, but it's a lifestyle, a regional lifestyle.
Great.
So, thank you so much for joining us on this companion podcast of Meateater's 12 and 26 film. If you haven't seen our Arkansas Bear Camp film, go to the Meateater YouTube channel and check it out. You can leave your questions and comments there. Hey, it's not lost on us that all of you watch this content, and it's really great. It's one of the joys inside of my life is to be able to make content. And man, I recognize what a privilege it is to get to document this stuff, because I know so many of these people out there are doing stuff cooler, better, faster, stronger, and more compelling than what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I think there's inside of society, there's sometimes this idea that the guys that are on TV are the best.
Right.
We are not. Is that relevant? To me, it's relevant. I just want to say thank you, and so many of you are the people that I look up to, and are teach me so much about hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not the best. We just love it. I do think I love it as much as anybody.
Yeah.
Not the best.
Absolutely.
So it's a privilege to just document it.
Yeah.
You know. So thanks everybody
guys
for watching. Really appreciate it.